everyone, it's Nancy here and I'm back with another process video. I pulled this piece of paper out from my last layout. It's from the Me and My Big Ideas paper pad, and I decided that I'm going to use this as the background piece for my layout. Here I'm just taking some of the open book from Maggie Holmes and just cutting some bits out here to mount my photos. I already had a couple of bits that were I've already cut into, so I'm trying to get those used up. And at this point I'm not really sure where I'm going to take this layout, but I'm going with it. And I just wanted to, make my photo a bit bigger because this is quite a small square photo, and that background paper is quite busy. So I pull out some stamps that I want to use for this layout, and they are the Tim Holtz ones. I think they're called, I don't know what they're called. They're just like his kind of like blueprint stamps, which they also done in a bigger size. So I pulled them out because I know I want to use that. I'm just going to trim this paper down a little bit as well, because I'm going to end up mounting it towards the end. And I'm just going to cut a piece of grey out again, just to put a small mat around my photo before laying it on everything else. So that's what I'm just doing here. I'm just using my photo as a guide to cut that out. So is the recording cut out there. So I've just pulled out my Archiver's coffee ink, and I'm using that to just ink the edges of my photo and that mat. And I'm also then inking up these other pieces. And now I'm going to start thinking about what I'm doing with the background paper. This background paper does kind of have like a pearlescent iridescence on it, kind of like little circles on it. And originally I was thinking of maybe doing a colour wash and they may show up, but I don't. I decided to take out some gesso because I do like those floral elements, but they're just a little bit much and a little bit dark. So I'm just taking my palette knife here and some of my gesso to create kind of a background. As I said before, I do only use cheap gesso because you can layer it up rather than, I don't really like the thick one. So I just stopped the video while I dried that, and I pulled out another couple of bits I want to use, and I'm now just putting this photo cluster together and trying to get that stuck down. And then it's kind of like a piece, a movable piece, so I can kind of work out where I'm going to put it. And now I'm going to start building up some texture in the background. So I'm using the Dirty Martine, I think it is, from Dilutions, and then I sprayed the stencil and then I turned the stencil over as well, so you kind of get the positive and the negative. And I really like how that looks. I'm now going through my what they're called, distressings, and these are some Claudine Helmuth foam stamps, which I bought really cheap ages ago, and I do really love them. Do use them quite a lot. And again, I'm just building up some background texture. And that sort of, circle one is a really good one to use. It's the kind of only one I have used, and that and the smaller one, which I've lost. But I do end up actually breaking the rest of these apart to use. So I'm now looking at my other ones. I decide that I'm going to stamp this one here. It doesn't really come out great, so I try re-stamping it. But I'm going to go back later and stamp over it again. I decided not to worry about it for now. I then want to put kind of like a border down there, just to something to kind of base my photo on, and then I'm going to just push that down again and get a much better print. Now I'm taking that Coffee Archivers and this line stamp, and again just stamping this randomly over the background. So I know vaguely where I want to put my photo, so I'm just going to add some mist. I'm just going to take my heat gun to dry this up. That is the thing when working with layers, especially with those Dilutions inks, because they are water soluble. You want to make sure that you do keep drying it in between the layers. So I decided to stick my photo, I was going to stick my photo down then, but I want to just put some stamps in and around it. And as I said, these are the leaf stamps from Tim Holtz. And this is an autumnal layout. And you'll see that I used these on my last sort of autumnal layout that I done. And I really like the sketchiness of them, they just really add something to the background. I tried the London Fog Memento ink, and that didn't really show, so I decided to go with the black Memento. And I really want to thank Kathleen from Cat Scraps who sent them to me. Thank you very much. And so I'm just adding that over all that background stamping. And the final thing, you can kind of see some of them are leaves, but again a lot of them is going to get covered up. So I'm just working around my cluster there. And I have already put some glue on my paper, so I was going to stick that down, but then I realised actually a lot of those are going to get covered up and I do want some of those to show. So I do just stamp a couple more out. And now I'm going to bring in again my gesso, and this is one of the Tim Holtz masks, and start adding some layers in. And again I'm just putting it randomly around places and kind of going over some of those pieces of paper. I'm not too worried if they get too messy, but I'm just trying to get it used. I'm just building up a little bit more in that bottom corner. I really like how that looks. Sorry, my recording stopped again. So I think I was just drying off, cleaning off my stencil there. And that is, you know, you have to make sure you do clean it off with the gesso, because if it dries you kind of have to pick it off and it's a pain. So just take a few minutes with a baby wipe, that's all I do. So I'm just drying that up, and I do quite like this one because like my heat gun is quite hot, and actually sometimes you make it bubble as the kind of water in it evaporates, and you get an even cooler, bumpier texture. So that's kind of quite cool, especially with this kind of circular kind of design. I'm just drying it from the back as well. I decide, because the bag in the photo is red and this has all got a little bit samey, I do want to bring in some other colours. So I believe I use, I can't remember, it's either barn door or fired brick, I think. I can't actually remember. So I'm just again using that dot stamp to add some bits over, and again it just picks up the red that's in the photo as well, and I really like how that looks. And again I'm just drying that off because again I have stamped over the gesso, so that's going to take a lot longer to dry. I'm pulling out these Maggie Holmes rub-ons, which I do have a love-hate relationship with. They're lovely, they just go on really badly, so I'm cutting out a variety of bits here that I want to use. There's kind of this large sort of tile design, so I'm going to rub that on, and it does take a lot of rubbing, and I'm using my the end of my pokey tool here, and that's not getting it off, so I then end up using my spatula. And as I said, I know I am putting it over gesso and layers of paper, but in that way it doesn't look so bad because it is a little bit broken up. So I'm just working on rubbing that down as best I can to try and get it to stick. As I said, I definitely do like the design, but I'm not loving the quality of them. But I know with rub-ons that is a problem. You know, it's not, you know, I always say there's probably like a period of a week where the rub-ons are fine and they'll work, and then after that they start drying out and stuff, and that's why, because I have opened this packet, I am trying to use them as quickly as possible, because as I said, once the packet's open I find they start to dry and they become even more difficult to put on. So I'm just sticking down one of the pieces from That's the Maggie Holmes cut aparts. And I'm just using some of my wet glue as well to help stick things down. And I then cut some flowers out, and this was from the 6x6 paper pad. I think I've nearly used all the flowers up now. I did again just say wanted to add a floral element. I know there's going to be lots of layouts during this part of my album which feature these Maggie Holmes flowers, but I'm okay with that. And I really think the colours worked really well because I have got my Cath Kidston handbag. And the photo, so there's nothing majorly special, but it's me just, I'd gone out, had to go to a different city for work, and I was just sitting with my new like autumn boots on and my pumpkin spice latte in my coat, just sitting there watching the world go by, and I snapped this photo. And I thought, you know, I really like this photo. I kind of, in the mindset, I was thinking the other day that I still take photos like I do Project Life, even though I don't do Project Life. But as I said before, next year I will be doing Project Life, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to work yet. And I'm not 100% sure how that's going to affect my channel. I am still going to be doing 12x12 because I am starting on some other albums, but yeah, I'm trying not to think about that too much, but as I said, I think I still take photos in the mindset of Project Life. And then I done the sort of documented before that, which I say was the Chamel kind of version of a sort of pocket scrapbooking. So I think I'm in the mindset of taking photos of like the little mundane things, but scrapping them on 12x12 pages. So I'm just using this Maggie Holmes rub on again, and I'm using it over my layers of flowers and gesso and various different things. And I was really nervous about doing this because, as I said, it is a very strong element on the page because it is black, but I think I got it to work in the end, and I'm quite happy that it, after lots of rubbing, that it did stick down and it didn't peel off too much. So I'm really pleased how that came out. I'm not a huge lover of those script words, as you know, but I think it kind of works on this layout. I'm just trimming off the edges there of the things that were overlapping. And so now I'm going to start on my title. I think the rub-on said this is what it's all about, and then this is where I'm going to put at the bottom, autumn treats, because, you know, I always look forward to autumn in this time of year because you get like all the lovely autumn coffees and like the Christmas coffees, and you get everything's all cosy and lovely. So that's what I'm going to journal about, and I will be journaling on the back of this layout because I think it's a little bit busy to journal on the front, or maybe I could journal on that like kind of the built-in kind of journaling block that was on this page. Not 100% sure. As you know, I sit and do my journaling at another point, and that is kind of where I make my decision, unless I've made it really obvious where I'm going to do my journaling. So I'm just fiddling with those October afternoon ones. I do love them, but I always think you have to have the right word to write them on, because I think some words look silly, but like autumn and that looks quite nice in this font. So I'm now just going through and pulling out some enamel dots, and then in doing that I find some wood veneers. And a lot of these are the wood veneers I have left over from the Scraptastic kit. So I decided to try and use some of those up. I pulled out some of these sort of darker hearts. And then I find these doily wood veneers, and I decide I'm going to see if I can layer those on. I do pull out that owl, but it doesn't really work. I thought I'd given all those away, but evidently I've got one stuck there still. And those thin wood veneers are quite easy to cut apart with scissors, so I am just cutting some of those heart clusters up, just so I can add them over different parts of the layouts. And I'm just tucking those wood veneers behind some of the flowers and the different layers. And I really like doing that now. It's kind of one of the things I'm loving at the moment, is sort of just, you know, tucking and hiding those wood veneers away in all the layers. So again, I'm just chopping some of those up so I can sprinkle them around the layout. And I'm loving, you know, I really love how this layout looked at the end. wasn't at all what I set out to do. And the only thing that annoys me slightly is that photo is kind of in the middle, but not quite. It kind of, my cluster, when I stuck it down, I actually moved over a little bit too far to the centre. But I think with the kind of weighting at the top there, it kind of works. And because you've got a lot of like busy backgrounds, all in all, I don't think it looks too odd, but part of me does want to shift it all across a little bit. But maybe that's just watching it back on the video that I realise that. So I'm just using my wet glue to help stick everything down. As you can see, there is that iridescence to that paper, the background paper. And I do like this, you know, how that adds a little bit of interest. So I'm now going through and I find these little red gems, not flat back gems, and I decided to just add some of those to each of the clusters because I do want to just carry on picking out that little bit of red, and it just adds just enough sort of sparkle, and you can never go wrong with a little bit of bling. So I'm now just going to add some Dirty Martini spritz over. I do get a little bit of my photo, which I'm bummed about, but there's nothing you can do. I should have covered it up. It's my own fault. But never mind. So I am just going to ink the edges of the background paper, and I'm just using my wet cement to do that. And that's a Hero Arts one. I'm just sort of distressing the edges a bit so it's not too clean. And then I'm just using quite a lot of ATG there to stick that down. And then I'm just adding that top layer over the top. And again, I just think that brings the whole layout together and then just puts a border around everything. So I'm really pleased with how that came out. I was just thinking about adding something else, but decided not to. So here are some close-up photos of the final layout. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!